Just have the volume off.
Hey, everybody, we're just trying this one more time, once again, and it seems like the sound is good. So I do have to apologize to you. I'm not exactly sure what happened, um, but Mona, I'm going to ask you to go and try to connect on your phone again and see if that changes. And while you do that, um, I want to just welcome everybody. Everybody.
Look like that, whatever you did worked because I am connected.
And the sound sounds pretty good.
It does.
See if I still have StreamYard. Okay. All right. So everybody, we're trying this one more time, and I'll go back in and put in the information for what this show is about. But we may need to find people because everybody was attached to the last segment that I just ended early. Do you understand what I'm saying, Mona?
Mm-hmm.
So for everybody who is on, thank you so much for joining us. But tonight we have a great session today with two what I consider powerful forces in the educational system. And some of you may know one of them, and many of you may not know the other, but what you'll see tonight and what we'll talk about tonight is how will we as Black people address the education for our children going forward. So I'm going to go ahead and start the countdown, and we're going to take that time to connect to all of our Facebook and YouTube and what have you. I think we are connected to YouTube, but just to make sure, and then we will go from there. So countdown.
To the Black Independent, where we speak truth to power, unapologetically.
For too long, the Black vote has been treated like a given, but we're not property, we're not pawns. We are the descendants of those who built this nation, and now we're demanding tangibles, not tokenism, because the era of blind loyalty is over. This is the Black Independent. Let's get to work.
YouTube. Welcome to We Are Black Independent, where we speak truth, build awareness, and move our community forward, one conversation at a time. I'm Mona Judge, joined by my co-host, Jeannette Bradley, and tonight we're talking about something that affects every family in our community, our children.
So folks, across Tampa's urban corridor, but I would imagine across the state of Florida, especially in our Title I schools, too many of our kids are still being left behind. I mean, I see them every day as I go into the classrooms. The classrooms are underfunded. We have overworked teachers and new laws that are stripping away an honest history, therefore an honest education.
You know, Jeanette, when books are being banned, our identity is getting erased. We can't pretend this system is working. So tonight we're asking, is it time for Black families to take back control of our children's learning?
I think it's time. I really think it's time. So,
Overdue.
I would agree with that. So coming up, and this is what is so exciting. We'll talk with a mom who made that bold move through homeschooling. I mean, even when maybe most of us never even heard of it, she's homeschooling her two boys. And later, we're going to hear from Dr. Cametra Edwards, a leadership coach, a school psychologist who helps school rebuild their culture and curriculum from the inside out. So, you got it, Mona.
All right, before we go any further, we're doing something different. We have a few sponsors, so we're going to hear from our first sponsor.
I know that you want.
I could play it.
Oh, yeah.
And give a gift that's as sweet as it is meaningful. From the Seedful Kids After School Garden Program in Tampa comes local honey inspired by young gardeners and the gardens they grow. Our 3rd and 4th graders learn math, science, and teamwork while exploring nature. Favorites like chocolate honey, Madagascar vanilla bean, cinnamon, and orange blossom are among 24 unique blends that customers can't stop talking about. Each one raw, natural, and locally sourced. When you buy Seafool Kids Honey, your purchase supports a local nonprofit organization that helps students. So this Christmas season, shop local and support young minds blossoming in our Tampa gardens. Order at www.cbexchange.org. The link will also be in our description.
Excellent.
So, folks, I got to tell you, I had some of the lemon honey today, and it is absolutely awesome. Think honey and lemon together. Great in teas and just simply divine. Great stocking stuffers for sure.
Absolutely.
So let's start right here in Tampa. Title I schools in East Tampa are still struggling to meet even the most basic performance standards. Teachers are doing their very best, but the resources just remain scarce, Mona.
Yeah. Wow. And now we're seeing with I think we were seeing this, maybe I was seeing this almost 4-5 years ago, where we're seeing lessons on race and history disappearing under the banner of reform. And parents are asking, what of our children? If our children can't learn their history, their story, what are they learning?
Yeah, I think some parents are asking, but there's too many that are just sort of going along or they're not quite aware. So I think it's important for us to get the town criers out to say, pay attention, folks. This means you. This means your child. This means our future. So for many people, the question isn't why leave the system. It's what took us so long to figure out that we have to take better control over how our children are educated.
And I think for the most part, everybody is busy. Everybody is busy, and I know parents care, but I don't know if they know where to start, how to organize, or even if they can. So that brings us to our first guest, a mother who saw the danger early and decided to create, how about that, her own path. I like that.
I love that. In fact, I met, and are we bringing her in? Let's go ahead and bring Ms. Walker in at the stage. Hello, Shelley.
Hello, everybody.
How are you?
I'm
Yeah.
awesome. I'm awesome. Hope everybody else is as well.
We are, and we're very, very excited about having you on tonight. When I met you maybe a couple months ago, a month and a half ago, maybe. It's been that long.
Yeah.
I was so excited to hear that you are doing something that most often I hear white families do. I don't hear of Black families taking it upon themselves to just kind of do their own thing. So for some parents, the frustration, I think, um, builds over years. But for you, it seems your decision started before your children were even born. I don't know that, but tell us a little bit about, I don't know, what motivated you to homeschool your children.
Honestly, my journey began as I was sitting in my girlfriend's home. I am fully pregnant, and I'm watching
Oh my
a um, talk show, and they bring this little 5-year-old African American male on the show, and I'm really attentive because they said he was arrested. Arrested? A 5-year-old?
5-year-old.
How in the hell of it does that happen? I had to know. So I'm listening, and this young child is expressing how he um, was handcuffed because he kicked the teacher. And the teacher said, I'm going to exercise my right to say that he assaulted me. And the principal went along with it. First of all, I'm like, well, you didn't call mom. This is a 5-year-old entering into school for the very first time. I know when I did, I was holding on to my mama's leg, didn't want to leave, you know. So as I watched that and I listened to them tell their story about how they did not call the parent, so they left the parent out of it. Um, the police officer didn't seem to care because he was doing his job. To him, the child was just a job. And I remember sitting there going, my God, are you serious? My child is not going to be just somebody's job. And how dare they take the voice of the parent out when they wouldn't do that to their own children? And I
Mhm.
said, at that point in time, I said, you know what? I don't want that for my child. So that began my journey of saying, I don't want. But at the time, I didn't know what my options were. So that was the beginning. And then fast forward to when my child began to go to school. He entered into kindergarten. And I was right there. And I was like, oh, wow, this is such a nice school. Oh, my God, I got my kid in here. And
So you're talking like 5 or 6 years later.
yes, yes. 5 or 6
Okay.
years later,
Mhm.
I'm putting my kid in school, and it was an interesting experience. But I was like, I just felt like something should have been better. And I transferred him over to another school. And in that school, my first experience as a black parent with their child in school, the woman told me she didn't see me standing there. And I was like, you didn't see this big old person standing right here, a whole person. You just didn't see me. And I said, okay. Hmm. Um, I sat down and I started reading some paperwork. And in the paperwork, it said that I had an option. I did not have to have my kid go to school when I was doing the transferring of schools. Not that I did not have to have him go to school. He did not
Mhm.
have to go to public school.
Mhm.
And when I read that, I was like, oh, he doesn't? And I saw and I read more that he, in the state of Georgia, only had to do 4 hours of school. I was like, that's it. And all I had to do was submit a piece of paper that said that he was getting reading, writing, arithmetic, science, whatever else that I was going to teach my child in those 4 hours. So I said, oh, options. Hey, fill this out. And there you go. I started. And at that point, I said, now I have a blank canvas. How shall I paint it? And I began with us. I said, the first thing I'm going to teach my kid is who he is.
Wow.
And I started to teach him about the scientists and the history of we didn't just start here. We began somewhere else. And that was the beginning of my journey of starting to homeschool. I'm
And
sorry.
you're homeschooling while he's like a second grader at the, a first
He went into
kindergarten?
the first grade. Yes,
He
when
had
he
gone
went into
into
the
the
first
first
grade.
grade. So you had enough after kindergarten and said, hey, this is what I'm going to do.
Yes, absolutely.
And it seemed as simple as what you just described. And you decided, I can do that 4 hours.
Yeah, that was
Mm.
it. I was like 4 hours. I mean, I was self-employed. I had plenty of time on my hands. I could work around my schedule, work around his schedule. I could introduce him to too much stuff. And then I didn't have to worry about, oh, look, I didn't have to worry about a babysitter. I didn't have to worry about who he was playing with, if their friends came from a decent background or not, who was going to be influencing him. I didn't have to have him ever worry about, is he good enough? Is the teacher going to pick me? I mean, he didn't have to go through that because I was always the teacher that was going to pick him because I wanted him to know.
Well, I think
And
Well, Shelley, and I think for me,
mhm,
the biggest thing would have been I see that you had two incidents that decided that to say I want something different. I want,
Shirley,
and I was always concerned who was going to be in front of my kid
mhm, mhm.
and what type of values they hold, because we do understand for some reason we could send young, energizing, productions, young kids, and by third grade they are broken.
oh,
Mhm.
wow.
They are broken.
Oh.
They're beaten down. They're told not to do this, not to do that. Um, you're this, you're that. So yeah, I when I read your story, I just thought it was awesome.
Thank
So
you.
Mona,
Thank you.
your daughter went to public school initially?
But yes, to fourth grade.
Okay, so I know you have your concerns, and we can certainly talk about that. But as you see, I've kind of run through those questions, and she's kind of answered a whole lot of what we may have asked.
Oh, I'm
Um,
sorry.
No,
no,
no, no, no.
no,
Let's go to
that's fine.
question two.
That
Let's go.
that is fine. But I think your motivation, I think, is what I wanted to really hit upon, because sometimes we're not motivated, or we're too afraid, or we don't have enough information, or we're too busy. There's so many different reasons. What advice would you give to someone who wants to um, homeschool their kids or start something? Do you have any advice that you would give them based on how you started?
Yes. My advice to me is truly do this if you really have the time or
Time.
you can create the time and invest the time to do this because it's your child. At the end of the day, I told my children, you're a reflection of me and I want you to reflect me well. So what I used to hear is this comment, oh my God, I can't wait for my kids to go to school because I need a break from them and blah, blah. And okay, that's fine. But if that's your mentality, you don't need to homeschool. You really don't need to homeschool because they want your time. They want to
Yeah.
be in your face. They're going to ask you questions, and you have to be their mom and their teacher and everything else all in under one hat. And so you really want to make sure that this is something that you can truly be committed to. Also, I would say to someone, if you are married and you have a partner, balance out the time because you can learn from your partner as well as yourself and anybody else that can invest in helping to teach your child because
Mhm.
they should know that there are many different teachers. That's why they go to school, is so that they can have an experience of learning from more than one way. So my advice to anybody doing this is making sure that that time is something that you can truly invest. And also, you don't have to do school traditionally. For example, if you got a full-time job that makes you have to be in from 9 to 5,
Mhm.
okay, then you don't have to have school from 9 to 5. You can have
Right.
school from 6 to 10. You understand? So as long as you get it in, you get it in 4 hours. That's all they're asking you to do. Or you can have, you know, create what works or what flows for you in your family dynamic.
So, Shelley, let me ask you two quick questions, and these are yes and no. So, how do you fund this? Do I know the in public schools, money follow those children. If you're homeschooling, do that money come to you? Are you funding everything yourself? How do they get the workbooks or whatever it is they need?
Okay, so that's a very great question. Um, there's a lot of pop-up things that they have here that they're calling homeschool,
Mhm.
and those are nice things that they provide. It actually comes from the school, the school system. However, when I started, I picked the type of things that I wanted. I went and bought the curriculums. I went and I created things that I wanted them to learn and know. So it was not something that was sponsored from from the school system. It was something that I went out, I purchased books that I wanted them to read. I purchased workbooks that I wanted them to work out of. These were all things that I paid for out of my pocket.
So, homeschooling, they don't have to per se follow Hillsborough County curriculum.
No,
Is that what you're
no,
saying?
that's
Oh,
exactly what I'm
well,
saying.
that's excellent right there. So let me so what kind of things were your children learning at home then that they wouldn't have gotten in public school, and what results did you see?
One of the fundamental things that I started with is the things that I learned as a child. So I taught my children French because that was something that I started off doing. And if you see that beautiful lady that just came in back of me, that's my mom. Hey, mom.
Okay.
And I put a lot of emphasis on that. I put a lot of emphasis on the different types of music because I was always surrounded by a lot of music. I also started to show them more of the sciences that I felt didn't have to wait until they got into high school and stuff. So they started doing experiments at that time. Um, yeah, and then I started culturally exposing them because when I was about 9 years old, I had my first exposure to going to plays and the theater.
Mhm.
So my son started, I had them go to the theater and they actually still love it to this day. Um,
Right.
so that they can be more cultured. I wanted them to know that, hey, yeah, you can listen to some rap music, yeah, but
Mhm.
how about we listen to some of this and see where it came from?
Yes.
And so I exposed them to things like that. So they got to go to the opera, they got to go to the Museum of Science, Fine Arts on a regular basis. I took them to things that you wouldn't ordinarily do, like horseback riding. That is not something that is typical in our community. Does that mean that we don't ride horses? That's not true. Yeah, we do.
Right.
Of course. Yes. Yeah.
And the last thing that I did that I thought was very important is in Atlanta they have this thing called botanical gardens. I wanted them to understand where food came from
Hmm.
and that it wasn't that you walked into the grocery store and hey, I got a chicken, you know. So I they went to farms and they also went to the garden. So they got to see everything from where it began and how it ended up on your plate.
So how do kids that are homeschooled get tested? And is it an annual thing? Is it at certain other milestones? Is it when they graduate and before they go off to college, the ACTs, SATs? How do you measure progression?
So, just as with public schools, so by the third grade, they have this huge test that they have to take. So my kids still had to take those same tests, and we had to register for those tests. And They arrive there for those things, all the way up until they graduate from high school. ACTs and SATs are still standard things that they still have to take if in order to get into college. So we had that as well. So everything that they had to do in public school, in regards to testing, my children were still required. Homeschooling children are still required to do, except they give us a special day. They'll say you have to do this by X amount of day. I want to just jump back to one thing. You asked about the um, supplies. Every homeschooling parent that goes to a bookstore, like Scholastic bookstore, if you
Mhm.
go there, anything that you want to homeschool your kids with, you can go there. You also get a homeschooling card, so that you also are getting discounts for those things. So even though I had a monetary value, there were discounts because I was considered a teacher, just as I was a teacher at a public school.
Good. Okay. So now let me ask you about the testing. Are they allowed to do that at home, or do they have to go to, say, a location, a public school location?
So sites were set up for our children to go and be tested at.
Okay.
So it was not necessarily at the public schools, but they had sites that was, like I said, that had to be set up, and we had to
Sure.
register for our days. I think they gave us at that time 3 to 4 days that we could register for to have our kids come in and be tested for their testing.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Probably. Yeah. Okay. Uh, that's good, because I was going to say, whoa, because I know a lot of people um, that do homeschooling. So I'm saying, who supervise? Um, I don't know a lot of people personally, but we hear of it. But we mostly hear white families and not necessarily black people.
Yeah.
Well, they are still sponsored by them. I mean, we have yet to, at this point in time, set up a locations that say, okay, all the black kids come over here. We haven't gotten that far yet, but it is still through the school system where they're setting it up and they are saying, okay, you meet here, and these are the rules and regulations of how you do it.
Hmm.
Um, and they pick many different places. One of the things that made homeschooling good, when I was in Atlanta, was that I belonged to a homeschooling group,
Okay.
and we met, and that was part of our socialization, and also how we got our information for our children of what we wanted them to be able to do or not do. From if we wanted them to have swim lessons, tennis lessons. I mean, these kids were getting given everything under the sun as an opportunity to do their 4 hours and then some.
Well, I'm glad you talked about the socialization, which was definitely a question that I think most people have, is you're now taking them away from other children and they're not learning that, but you have to also make sure that they're a part of a group, a socializing group where they can learn the interpersonal skills that one learns. Hey, no.
And that wouldn't be really one of my major concerns, because most black parents, their children either you're part of a church, a youth group, a lot of different organizations, and other kids that's in the homeschooling. So that's awesome. So Shelley,
Go ahead.
tell me, what advice would you give parents who are listening, but might be feeling a little overwhelmed, but want better for their kids? What advice would you give them? 'Cause you just made it
My
sound so
advice
easy
to them
just
is
now.
that because in truth it's not that it's just one step. It's just one step. And to know that you have all of the options at your disposal. And it's
Hmm.
it's you. And it's just that simple. It's you. Are you willing? Do you want to? And if you do, you can call me and I'll say, hey, I can walk you through going down and fill out that piece of paper. It's one piece of paper that decides where you are next with your child. it puts you back in control of how you want your child to be.
Sure.
Yeah, it
So
really does.
I'll say yes, it is just that simple. And they make it complicated because you don't know that it's that simple. And I think that that's where the complication is that really, are you sure? Can I get away with that? Can I really do that? And the answer is yes. They've been doing it for years and years and years. It's just that you have been programmed to say, oh, let's follow the trend. All right,
Yeah.
Johnny, you're 5. Okay, we're going over here, 5 years old. Or not, now it's even before 5. Pre-K,
Pre-K.
or preschool with 3 years old. They're already getting you set up to follow their trend as
Yeah,
opposed to following what you want for your child. And what
yeah,
they want is not always the best thing.
For our children, absolutely. Well, I think why I think this is perfect that Jen and I bringing it up, because now I just heard that the president wants to
yeah.
defund pre-K,
Pre-K.
Head Start.
No,
So I
wow.
mean not pre-K, but Head Start. And these are some options we need to know moving forward. And I mean, this could be very nice for a lot of parents, really.
Yeah, I think defunding pre-K is a part of a whole
I
larger goal
Sure.
to make sure little Black children, because I think that's generally the focus, Blackness, anti-Blackness, um, do not get that necessary head start, which is exactly what it's supposed to do, is to get them where they are up to par by the time they hit kindergarten, first, second, and third. If you remove that, then it puts them at a disadvantage. And that, my friends, is probably intentional. You were about to say something.
Yeah, well, they're trying to dismantle the whole system as it stands anyway, and we know that. And this is why I believe this podcast tonight is giving the community some options.
Yeah, I think your journey is
We got to
extremely,
move quicker than later.
yeah, sooner than later is very true. And your story, Shelley, is so inspiring. And I'm hoping that your story becomes a resource for others who are very interested in doing something different. What that different is, I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure that many of us are in a position where we can homeschool, but surely there might be some other options. But that gives us a great segue into our next guest. Mona, you got that?
Before you do that, can I say this one thing?
Yes. Yes. Say it.
I want to say this. Um, Resources are out there for our families, but we do have to realize that again there are options. But the other part of homeschooling that I really got to say here is that if we create a community where we are coming together, then we are more empowered and have more power behind us to do more things. So, as you're talking about not having Head Start, well, if we had a Black homeschooling network where the parents get together, then we can say on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, this is where the kindergarten group gets together, or pre-K group gets together. We can decide those things. It takes just one voice.
So I was going to ask you that. Can multiple families come together and homeschool? What would that still be considered
Absolutely.
homeschool?
We did it all the time up in Atlanta.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's
It's like
something.
I said, remember I said that you can have different people teach your kids instead of
Sure.
just you.
Mhm.
So let's say you're not very good at math, right? But
Mhm.
your husband is a banker, he loves numbers, he's an accountant. He can do a general math class for his kids. And then
Right.
he can invite Susie down the street, so and so. As long the qualifications is not who teaches the kids, It's that they get 4 hours
Hours.
of education.
Perfect.
That you are documenting. You're documenting exactly what happens in that 4 hours.
Yes, you are documenting that. Yes, very much so. You have to document your each day.
And before we bring the good doctor on, how the boys doing? How old are they? Are they like out doing well?
I'll tell you what, would you guys like to actually see one of my boys? He's here.
Yes.
I'm going to put him on the spot. Yes. Hold on one moment, please, and thank
Show
you.
and tell. We got show and tell here tonight, guys.
Ellis, would you please come here? The people want to see the result of you being homeschooled. Would you come and say hello, please, and thank you? Would you please come?
It's like, Mama, don't make me do that.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is my son. I know he's a really tall guy. This is my son Ellis, who has been homeschooled. He is in college and still doing his own thing. Say hello to the ladies.
Hi, how's it going?
And to the
Hi,
world.
Ellis.
National
Nice to meet you.
broadcast.
Ellis, how did you like home? Yeah, how did you like
him? Get right over here.
Yeah, I'm going to ask. He is
Alice,
really
have a seat.
Homeschooling.
Sit down, Alice. Sit in the hot seat. It's going to be good.
How did you like homeschool?
Homeschooling for me was really a genuinely unique experience. It really wasn't anything super fancy per se. It was just a very catered experience because I did both one-on-one homeschooling with my parent, my mother, and through her, I got to experience a lot of different things that a normal, perhaps public and maybe even a private school student would not be able to. For instance, I got to go and play tennis on the circuit, and through that, I was able to network and meet other kinds of people.
Circuits.
I was involved with robotics. Yeah, it wasn't like how a regular school team would be set up, but I was able to experience athletic programs. I was involved with robotics when I was very young. My comprehension of it has changed over time, but I was able to do that and was able to meet a lot of famous pioneers in the field of engineering and robotics. Like you guys probably know Steve Jobs, who invented Apple with the iPhone and all the different devices you use from them. I was able to meet a Black engineer and a Black inventor by the name of Lonnie Johnson. He recently got his settlements for a lot of the patents that he made that was denied to him initially due to the environment and the racial atmosphere in the 90s that kind of prevented him from getting the clear distinctions that he deserved back during his time. I met him through robotics as well. And I also met the former president, Jimmy Carter, through that. And from that, I was able to gain, just a lot of different experiences. I've been to the symphony, I've been kayaking, I've been through Boy Scouts. I had a whole lot of flexibility that came just from not being tied down to a traditional schedule while still being able to get a lot of my core education.
Chills. I'm literally getting chills listening to the experiences that you are having or that you had that prepared you even for this moment as you are in college. I'm speechless, and thank you for being here and sharing that, because I think sometimes parents need to know and be able to see the difference. And from what I can see, there's a difference happening here. And I would love to see more of our children experience what you've experienced, even the whole Jimmy Carter thing. Come on now. Really?
I mean, it's nothing to really brag about. It's just, it's to me, it's just living life.
It's a lot to brag about.
I would say it just is, and that should be the default for more of our kids. So I agree with you. Nothing to brag about shouldn't be, but what you've experienced needs to be just more the norm for Black children. So Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And
Alice, what year you in school, and what school are you attending?
Currently, right now, I'm taking a little bit of a break from college. I formerly attended Kaiser University. Right now, I'm just working on getting my own place so that I'm able to move back and move through college a little bit more smoothly and effectively. Because when I was going initially, not to talk your ear off, it was a little bit hectic. It was enjoyable, but hectic because we were stuck into dorms that were filled with 8 students in total, but 4 on each side. So I would prefer, smelling all that, dealing with all that, with its goods and bads, to be in my own place.
all right, college
Absolutely.
life.
Yes.
Again, thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you guys for having me.
You bet. Great segue into
And well mannered.
yes, great segue into Dr. Cametra.
Thank you.
Yes, our next. Let me pull Dr. Cametra on the stage.
Hello, good evening.
Thank you. So our next guest is Dr. Cametra Edwards.
I cannot hear you, Mona. I can't hear you. I don't know.
You can't hear her?
Can you hear me now?
I can't hear her at all.
Can you hear Jeannette?
Can you hear me?
I can hear everyone else. I just could not hear her. I don't know what happened.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
So maybe I should have left and came back in. I'm sorry.
No, you good. Jeannette, you just do the talking.
Y'all want me to? You want me to leave and come back in?
You can try that, and we'll just ask one more question. You can try that and come back in so that you can hear. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead and do that. Love your son, his temperament, his disposition. I don't know. It's exactly what we need to see more of in more of our children.
Yes.
And again, I think it should be more the norm, where we are guiding our children through these very important events, because I heard quite a few events, and it reminds me of what I think it must have been for Venus and Serena, and for who else? All of them. Coco Gauff.
Yes.
That they were living their lives and being guided by their parents and winning and learning how to be social beings at a much higher level than I think they would get ordinarily on a school playground, school playground. So I'm all for homeschooling. I just can't right now see the practicality for a whole lot of people. And I'm looking for the answers as to how we get closer to that, so that more of our children learn who we are, who they are.
When you say the practicality, what do you mean? I'm
the whole 9 to 5, I got to work, or I'm working at a job that I really don't want to be at anyway. And maybe they don't.
You mean the how to do?
Right, the whole skill set of what to do, how to connect, all of those things. For the kids that I work with, because I do a lot of, I have a program and I go into Title I schools and I work with kids that are in low income families, and I want that for them. But I know that I kind of feel like the parents won't be able to do it, but how do we as a community get that for them too, right? So I don't understand how we would do it.
The answer to that is just like when we go to church, right? You send the kids into the sanctuary for the younger kids, right? Oftentimes there's a church mother or the grandmother or something like that. We have to remember that we are a community. So if you are working from 9 to 5, right, and let's say your grandmother or your aunt or somebody in the community is saying, you know what, I teach quilting. Okay, so I told you that I went and I got my supplies. So the first hour, they can say, well, we're going to be at Sister So and So's house. The first hour, you already have your assignment, you know what you need to do. And then when you're done, quilting is the next aspect of your schooling that day. So it's not a matter of, we have to be creative and find our house
I
and
like it.
create those things. I'm sorry,
Absolutely.
go ahead.
So I want to welcome Dr. Cametra Edwards back in, and I need to do a mic check with, or a sound check with Mona. Can you hear? Mona, say something.
Dr. Edwards, can you
I
hear
know
me?
you can hear that dog in the background.
I can hear you now, Mona. I can hear you.
Okay. Perfect. All right, Facebook. Our next guest is Dr. Cametra Edwards. She is a leadership coach, school psychologist, and a curriculum consultant who helps schools strengthen leaderships and build programs that actually serves students.
So welcome back, and I know you heard this marvelous story with Shelley raising that beautiful young son. Was it Ellis?
Yes, Ellis.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
shout out to Ellis because he came in and did an amazing job.
Yes, he
Thank you.
did.
Being put on the spot. I heard the discussion and conversation, and I do have just a few little tweaks because Shelley, I think what your experience was homeschooling in Georgia and in the
Correct.
metro. So the Florida laws are just a little bit different, and so I just
Okay.
want people who are coming and watching the show to have like clarity on the homeschooling laws for Florida. I too homeschooled. I told the Jeannette and Mona last night, I've done pretty much everything. I homeschooled, we did private school, we did charter school. The only thing we will not do is a traditional public school. And I did not do that for my children. But in Florida, we have some amazing laws and opportunities for parents to homeschool. And so one of the things that's available now is we call it the PEP, the Personalized Education Scholarship. If you choose to homeschool your child, you can apply for a scholarship that will provide you with funds to assist with purchasing curriculum, going on field trips, like a lot of the things that you mentioned, those experiences, you can actually, it sets up like an education savings account for you and your family. Basically, the government is saying, hey, we're going to give you back your tax dollars since we're not using them in a traditional public school. We'll give them back to you for you to use in homeschooling your child. So I just want to name, currently applications are closed for the 25-26 school year. They'll probably reopen in the spring for next school year, but parents can apply. It looks like they capped it this year at 100,000 parents to who they would award scholarships to. I'm not sure if there's going to be a cap next year or what the amount is. Just get in early. I would say if you're interested in this as a family, it's better for you to apply and then say never mind and turn it down other than to want it and not have the opportunity available for you. So that's called a personalized education scholarship. Florida has great opportunities for homeschooling parents. We currently live in Hillsborough County, and in Hillsborough County, this is the highest district for homeschooling in the state of Florida. More parents homeschool here than any other district in the state of Florida.
There are a lot of Black parents that are homeschooling?
There are, believe it or not, there are Black parents, usually a little bit more affluent, not usually the population you're talking about, Jeannette, but yes, there are Black parents who homeschool. I was a Black parent who homeschooled, and that was 10 years ago. So yes, Black parents homeschool. We have homeschool co-ops, which I heard Shelley talking about and describing amazing co-op opportunities. Co-ops are just that. You are a co-op. You come together, you build together, you create schedules together. My daughter attended an amazing co-op in Carrollwood where I could actually drop her off, and the other parents were like, hey, we're doing all the teaching, you come back and pick her up. And so it was like a school day for 2 days a week for her, where she got all the socialization, all the things that people talk about. But I had to think about being flexible. all the things that Shelly said. Like, yes, I worked a job, but when I got off work, that's when she got her schooling. Like, she had her assignments in the time when we check in and did that. But I will also say what Shelly said, like, you are the teacher. Nobody else you are responsible, right? So the other thing I did want to name is in Florida, you do not have to take the state mandated assessments. You are not required in the state of Florida. What you do have to do is every year show proof of annual progress. That's what it's called, proof of annual progress. Now, if you as a parent say, you know what, I want my child to take a test, not the state test, because remember, you've opted out. So all the dollars for your child are now with you. They're no longer with the district. So they're not holding seats for you to come and test in their buildings because you no longer are in their system. So you can take like a CTB. You remember those old names of those tests are still around, and you can take those. The SATs, of course, ACTs are also available. And the other option is you just have your child meet with a certified teacher every year. And they're in definitely Hillsborough County. There are teachers all over who are experts in the homeschool annual progress assessment. I wouldn't just have any teacher do it. There are specific teachers who understand the assignment, as we say, of what it means to do that assessment. And they just write a letter and that gets sent into the district every year. So you're supposed to keep all your records. Nobody's checking your records. Nobody's looking for proof that you did anything. There are not minimum, like you got to do 4 hours. That's in Florida. You are free to go on and do however, create the curriculum and opportunities that you want for your children. And no one ever comes and checks on you. Now you are supposed to keep records that if they ever wanted to, but they don't. They're busy. Their hands are full.
And at the end of the day, everybody wants what's best for their children. If
Absolutely.
you don't, yeah, if you're not going to make sure that they're getting the best, you'll just let them keep going to public school.
Yeah, traditional public school.
Traditional. So let me ask you this, Cametra, because you help form charter schools, right? You help people that start charter schools that are either in charter school. You help them do what? How does that look?
Yeah.
And what's the difference? How would you different homeschooling and charter school?
Well, one is a public school and one is not, right? Like, so charter schools are public schools. That is my mantra. I say that all the time. Charter schools
it's still public school?
are public schools. They are a public school. They are funded with public dollars. So they are in the public system. Your children have to take all the same assessments. You're bound by the same laws, right? There are some where there's looseness, but I'm gonna be honest, over the years, like I started in charter schools when charter schools were starting in the state of Florida. I know I look very young, but that was 30 years ago, almost, when charter schools started, and we had lots of flexibility. There was so much opportunity. Well, the tides have changed, and the freedom and flexibility that were in charter schools, it has now started to become a lot more minimized, and charter schools look a lot like traditional schools. There's very few opportunities for innovation and flexibility, which is why they were initially created. So
why do you think that is?
That's a good question. I just think that the traditional schools started looking a lot more like the charter schools, which again, charter schools started to be innovative. They were supposed to take some of the work that we thought, if we had the flexibility without all the rules and regulations of the traditional laws that apply to traditional public schools, maybe we can get something different going for kids. And so that's why charter schools were created, right? They were houses of innovation. Well, what happens with innovation, right? It happens and then it leaks into the traditional schools. And so traditional schools, they start looking a lot like charters, and charters start looking a lot like traditional. So there are a few new charters coming into the state. So we'll be on the lookout for those, like Success Academies is coming down from New York. Success Academies is the highest performing school in the country, period, of all schools.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'll be interested. They're opening schools in Miami next year. So curious to see how that goes and then how they expand possibly throughout the state of Florida. But yeah, when I came in, mom and pop kind of charter schools were options where you could have a smaller school. now, because of the regulations and so much of the compliance, you need a giant staff. And so most charters are now large, right? Just because you need that many people to be able to execute on all the rules and the laws and the statutes that are out there. So
they're pushing the smaller ones out, because it almost seemed like these charter schools, like Ideal, that I could think of, are more like corporations.
They are. It's not more like, they are.
Wow.
Yeah, I think so too. But aren't you losing with charter schools, if I compare that to homeschooling, as Shelley certainly described it? You're losing that control over what your child is actually learning about him or herself, but also about him or her own culture. And yeah, so
charters used to be flexible. Like I could push what I wanted to about the culture, and I could align it to the standards and show like how it makes sense to do that. You can't do that. Like those laws that have come out now that say like, hey, you aren't allowed to teach A, B, and C, those apply to all public schools. So now charters don't have that level of flexibility that they used to have. So it's, you got to bargain and see like, okay, do I want to fight on this or not? So it's not what it used to be. And
So what would be the incentive to say leave a public school to go to a charter school if it's still controlled by the school, Hillsborough County school system, or the school system?
Because the vast majority of African American Black children would get a better experience.
They get a better experience at a charter school?
I would say that. Now, people would disagree with me, but I would say that at most, not all, but definitely at most. Okay. They're in smaller classrooms, smaller class size. You as a parent usually have a little more voice because, you can actually it's so interesting. I went to a public school in Hillsborough County, and they won't let you in the door. Sometimes they don't even let you in the door. If you don't have an appointment, you can't come in the building. That's a different environment. And I get it. We are living in post Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. And so I know that safety is a major concern. I definitely understand that. However, we've lost that human connection because as parents, you should have an opportunity to see what's happening with your child. Like as Shelley described, going and sitting in the classroom, that doesn't happen anymore. Like,
that does not happen at all.
Do that.
That's very true.
Yeah, those types of things I think are things that we've lost along the way that are really important for a parent who wants to be engaged. There are so many barriers that are keeping you from being engaged that I think you need to find a school where, if that's what you desire, or figure out education in a way that meets your desire as a parent for what you want for your child.
And that's one of the reasons I want to have this conversation. Figure out education so that it meets what it is that you want for your child. I think, Shelley, you have done that. Dr. Cametra, you have done that. And I think with the way things are going, the way the laws are going, we as a community have to do that. And as Mona said, sooner rather than later. And right now, we're just going to wait till the ball completely drops before we say, oh no, what do we do with our children? Because they are cutting funding for key programs that help our children progress through the system.
And another thing that we have to look at, I know, was one of my main concerns when my daughter was in public school. We hear so many teachers, Cametra, especially in low-income schools, say that they are exhausted, unheard. And what can some leaders do to better support so they can give their students the best? I just look at these, and I follow the grades, and you kind of help me do this, the reading scores. I don't understand, and it's always my thing, and I can never get a clear answer. When we send our kids to, let's say, pre-K or Head Start whatever that is, and then on to kindergarten. And by the time they get to third grade, they are not reading on level. That is the biggest issue I have with public school.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, I think that's definitely an issue, right? And I don't blame the parents. I think that for me,
I don't blame the parents.
I've never been one who wants to blame parents because I think parents assume if I send you somewhere for this many hours every single day, you're on time. You do the work that they send home. If they send home homework, I do that with you and I send it back. How are you not on level? So I do.
All right. So I might be the only one here that say parents have some culpability here. I think that when the three of you sent your kids to school, you sent your kids to school with some kind of understanding of the basics of ABC 1, 2, 3. Not all kids are coming in that way.
Right.
And then when they come in and they sit in that seat, not all kids, sometimes I just go and sit in the classroom and the kids know that I'm coming in to sit. Don't talk to me. I'm just there doing my work, but I'm also observing to see how those kids are interacting in that classroom. And I'm asking the teachers about it. So there is that level 2 in some schools, or that level also of kids that are so disruptive in a classroom that even learning cannot take place. And we're just talking 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, what have you. So I hear you, but the challenge is a dual kind of responsibility in terms of does that kid come ready? And when they come ready, will they be able to sit in the seat as assertive consumers ready to learn? And that is not always the case. So I don't blame the parents, but I don't blame the teachers either.
Oh, I don't blame the teachers either. I think so. Here would be what I would say in response to that. As a system, if I know that I'm going to have 10 kids that are going to show up, I'm going to make it real simple, with no shoes on every day.
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to have?
Them shoes.
Just have some shoes at the door. Like, hey, when you come in, put the shoes on, let's go. So that's where I think the gap is that if as a system, I know these kids are going to be behind, how do I design school so that it meets their needs?
Yes. We
have a one system for everybody. And so if you don't meet that goal or that, the criteria of that system, then, the system keeps moving and you are left behind. I see y'all said no more students left behind, right?
Yes.
You get away from the left behinds. Well, when your system is only operates in one way, that's how students are left behind. When you give schools resources and supports to help them be better, and then they get better, and you say, great, let's take away all the resources and supports that you needed to help you be better, then the schools go back to where they were. That doesn't make sense. And it shouldn't make sense to any of us to say, well, wait a minute, if they needed this level of support to get to whatever you think they should be, why not continue to resource them that way? So those are the kinds of things that questions that I have that never get answered.
Yeah, I don't think that we're going to go down that road.
That question perfectly, because I was going to say, how can we have educators who cannot figure this out? And if we have little Tommy, who they would consider bad, won't sit still, well, we need to be teaching these kids different. Why do he have to sit in a desk? Why can't he sit on the floor and read the book or listen? We got to do it different.
Because it's not a Montessori school. It's a traditional school that, granted, what you say, Dr. Cametra, but they haven't changed the system since it was invented to make our children worker bees or whatever the original goal was. But
what happened when you went to school?
Huh?
What happened when we was in school? You and I older than.
We were in a very traditional, and
Yes, but we learned, and our parents didn't do all what they expect these children to do.
It's just a different time. It's a different time, and I think that it gets to why we're here tonight is we recognize that it's not a one-size-fit-all situation, and as the laws change, it will be moving more toward that one-size-fit-all, and purposely allowing folks to go to school with no shoes and maybe act out in a class and just push them off to the side because they're going to work the farm fields and whatever else.
Sure.
So
But
in
allow
that
me to interject, if
yes,
I may.
please. Mhm.
In the 80s, when I was growing up and going to school, yeah, I'm old. Um,
Mhm.
I
Well, see,
remember.
you was going to school in the 80s. I graduated in 81. So.
Oh wow. Okay, she got me. Um,
Oh, I have
but
for all of you, but okay.
no. Oh. Here's the thing: the expectation when I went to school, my parents and my friends' parents, they had an expectation when we walked in that that door. So they expected us to represent them, okay, as
In
their
this order.
child,
Mhm.
okay? And we could not go to school without being neat, whether we had shoes or not. We could not go to school without being respectful, okay? That was way back when, okay? Come forward. There is no expectation. The parents are not seeming, I'm not saying all parents, I'm just saying in general, a lot of the parents are not involved and they need to be just as involved as the teachers as well. What I was told, I'm from up north originally, I'm from Massachusetts, and what I was told by many of my teacher friends is that the job has changed. Their job now today is to get your kid to pass a test. It is not their job today to teach your kids to have critical thinking. It's not their job today to get your kid to understand that when they hear every fourth beat that equals this. Okay, because in the 80s when they before they took the music out of the schools, a lot of us were thriving because of music. Okay, a lot of us was thriving because of those things that was expected. You knew that you had an expectation not just of the teacher but of your parent as well. When they took that away, that the parents voices, then a lot of us started to depend on that. And then um with those changes, nothing was bringing it. Nothing has come back circle to bring it back around. And I think that that's where we falter because we're expecting the system to do what we should be doing, and which
Mm,
And
is
that's why
yeah,
that's why we're here today, because we cannot expect them. You're
that's
correct.
what I'm saying.
To do what we need to do.
Right.
And we have options inside of, and since we're talking about Hillsborough County, we got churches that have life centers. I like where Iselina's second school is now, inside one of the life centers.
A plug for Lena Bean Academy. Let's just go ahead and do that right now.
Thank you. Yes, an excellent alternative for traditional school. So we have options. I just think we need people like you and Dr. Edwards to maybe organize this thing, started getting it ready for next year.
I think we need people like Shelley and Dr. Edwards to be available to groups of parents and people and professionals that build a network, much like the co-ops that you guys spoke of parents that are homeschooling, and figuring out how we're going to create some type of system for Black children that are being schooled, if not by homeschool, but let's say, Shelley, you are homeschooling 10 kids, right? because I can't do it, but I know that the system in the state of Florida, per Dr. Cametra, will allocate those funds into your coffers because I have selected you as my homeschool person, if you will.
Not like that. You would have to, that's something you and Shelley would have to work out.
To
But
discuss,
the state
right.
of Florida has.
So I would have it. Okay, say it clearly so that I understand, or anybody else who says, "Oh, what an idea."
Yes. So
What
the
is
state
it
of
like?
Florida has funding for the parent. So
So
as
the parent would have to.
I
Exactly.
apply, I receive the scholarship, and then I choose how to spend those funds. And they do
Gotcha.
have a list. You can't just go out, you can't take the money and go buy a car. Like that's not one of the choices on the list of how you spend the money because you are accountable. It's almost like a reimbursement type situation. So you are accountable for those funds. And if you don't spend them appropriately, you're not going to get the money. So the scholarship is for families who are wanting to homeschool, and you get to choose how you spend that money. So if you say, well, you know what, Shelley and I are going to create a class that we are teaching our children French, then, and I'm going to give her, $20 a week to do that, then that's an acceptable, use of funds.
Okay, use of the funds, yeah.
Yes. So I also want to name, we talked about Lena Bean. Shout out to Ishalina Williams. That is a private school. And we haven't mentioned private school in the system of schooling that's available. So I do want to just shout that out too. We have a ton of great private schools around too as options that parents should investigate. So,
well, I like Academy Prep. I'm a big fan of Academy Prep, and I was going to ask you, because some of the kids at Academy Prep receive step up
for students,
and it's a stipend. Is that something what the homeschool kids get?
Yes. So Step Up for Students is the administrator over all of these scholarships. So if they go to the Step Up for Students website, they are the administrator for each one of these scholarships. They are the administrator for the scholarship that you can get if your child was bullied in school. Like there are a range of scholarships available that parents should look at through Step Up.
And we're going to take advantage of this because it is a lot of options out here that, and I know Step Up for Students, they receive, I don't know how much, but every grading period. Is that correct?
Well, it's an annual, so it's for the year, and that money is going to. So depending on which scholarship, the scholarship you were just referencing is the one that supports low-income students to choice out of a low-performing school and go to a private school.
Private school. Yeah.
So y'all, we work it out now. That's why all the school grades all of a sudden somehow improve because the public schools are losing that money, and that and the state is paying for those students to go to private school. So that's why all of a sudden everybody got a C.
All of a sudden.
The schools get a C, but the kids are still reading below grade average.
Yeah, because there are formulas. There are formulas that kind of change from one year or two to the next. I'm aware of that. He's like, I'm aware of that. It's like, what?
Yeah. What? Well, it's a formula change, but it's also we need to understand the formula. I have been yelling from the rooftops. There are people who are teachers in schools every day and they don't understand the formula. We all need to understand the grading formula so that we can understand what people are telling us and be informed and not just listen to what people say and say, oh, this is a great school. This is a wonderful principal. And when I look at the school performance of African-American students in your school, it's saying, oh, they've made growth because they went from a level 1, which is below basic, to a level 2, which is now just below basic. Right. But basically, honestly, they're supposed to be at a level 4.
And they should be at a level.
Is truly
they should be at a level what?
I just said 4. So really a level 4. And I know we live by level 3 because level 3 is where they don't get penalized anymore. But level 3 is basic.
Okay.
Level 4 is on level. That's really where they're supposed to be. If you go and look at the paperwork at the state and how they create the scale, really students should be a level 4 or higher.
Oh.
Level 3 is basic. Level 2 is below. Level 1 is 2 or more below, what you were just saying. And even within a 1, there are 3 buckets. So there's 3 buckets within that 1 of how low you could be. And there are 2 buckets within a 2. So if students they can stay a level 1. They can be 2 or more years kind of behind, as you were just mentioning, Mona, and still make a little bit of growth. They're still in that low level 1, right? But they went from the lowest bucket to the middle bucket, and the school grade will increase because they moved that student. They're still way behind.
Still a 1. They're still a level 1.
Still a 1.
And that's a huge disservice to us. And I will have to ask, when we say we have all this morals, ethics, how in the world can we live with that? I just don't know. Because I believe that every kid is able to learn. And Jeannette, if they come in to they come in Head Start, how long does it take you, whatever you don't know, how long do it take you to do that? Because we know that the children have the ability to learn. I believe that.
They do, and I don't deal with Head Start, but I happened to I was assigned a classroom that was right next door, and I would come in early. I do an after-school program, Shelley, and I would come in early, and sometimes to just prepare for the kids when they came. And we were right next door to a maybe pre-K or Head Start, and they were just really little because they would take them to the restroom, and then they would some of the kids wouldn't quite make it, and they were changing clothes, they were doing all kinds of things, and they were doing the very basic things of how to get up and say the Pledge of Allegiance and whatever else. They were learning how to be in a school. It was a socialization thing more so than anything else. And they were learning their letters and what have you. I still feel that prior to pre-K, there had to be some ABCs and 1, 2, 3s going on in your house, so that by the time you got to that point, you were in a classroom with kids, and I'm getting out of Title I schools and going into some of the more affluent schools. Those kids some of them are reading in those schools. But our kids, it's the total opposite in many cases, except maybe 1 or 2 kids, you can tell something was happening before they got here. Sure. We're putting too much on pre-K, and something has to be done from a community-wide standpoint, in my opinion. That's why we're here, we're talking. How do we get our kids ready? And we know that all families are not equally yoked, but those kids all end up in the same classrooms, give or take.
Can I just want to hold one, because I've said it, I don't always blame parents, but I just want to name this one last thing. When we have communities where we have generational school failure, what are we asking of the families to do? So if I, with all my heart, love Potter Elementary, but Potter Elementary has been low performing for 20 years.
Yes.
And I'm not exaggerating. Like, we can go back and pull it.
I know, that's a real example. That's the thing.
Very real, right? And again, I love Potter, love people at Potter. I know y'all working hard, so I'm not trying to call anybody out. But what are you asking of that parent who still lives in the same house that mama bought back in 1952? Right. And they went through Potter. What are we asking, right, of that person who was undereducated to now transform themselves, I guess, to be somebody different for their students? We can ask them to do that, but I think also we have to recognize what resource, like, how are we allocating and how are we standing on business for resources to support those families and those students. Now, I'm going to say this. We live in a resource-rich environment. We don't always take advantage of it. I was at the children's board has these centers throughout all the communities. They're all around. They have classes for parents. You could learn a foreign language if you want. amazing resources. We are not taking advantage of the resources that are within our community that are available to us like they are available to everybody else.
I think it's all about the presentation and how you present that resource to us. Okay, think of it like this: a lot of back in the day, a lot of us had a big party mentality. Okay, so we come out for a party, right? We'll come out for what is it? A parade, something that they think is free. Now, but education is not presented as something fun, free, or beneficial. Because I remember back in the day, you would be put down, or somebody would pick on you. Oh, you're a nerd, because you are excelling.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, we have reverse thought processes. When I say reverse, what I mean is, instead of saying, "Oh, you're doing good because you're playing basketball," you understand what I'm saying? They glorify basketball. They glorify the sports, but nobody is glorifying and saying, "Oh, you know what? Science is good. Oh, you're doing excellent." There is no glorification in it, and I don't mean that in a bad way. What I mean is that there is nothing that says something powerful, something good is going to come because you are educated. Okay. What is glorified is, oh my God, Sonny, Johnny, he played on the football team. He made a touchdown. And they're still talking about that from when he's in little boy playing football. We don't get the same joy when we're talking about education just for education.
Well,
Okay.
Sally, I would say that's true for certain half of the parents and half, because those parents who children might not be doing so well, they need something to glorify, something to uplift them, and they're doing well in sports. But those kids who are very, very smart and they doing all this extra curriculum and those things, those parents do glorify that.
No, but it's not. What I mean by that is,
As
okay,
a whole, I have
glory. We see Johnny. He made a touchdown. It's in the newspaper. That's what I mean when I say it's glorified. So Susie, who does this great project on how to grow an eggplant, she's not in the newspaper. That's what I'm saying.
And do you
And
think
when
it's
you,
by design as well?
I'm sorry.
I said, would you think that is by design as well?
Absolutely, it's by design.
Absolutely, because
Because go ahead.
to get the kids who you're talking about, they're in the newspaper too, but it might be on page 6B. So it's definitely not going to be on the news unless it's something national. But listen, Cametra, and you too, Shelley, what advice for say families and communities before we close? What advice would you give to parents, grandparents, and mentors who want to see change but don't really know how to start?
Mhm. I think that's a great question, and we've been bouncing this question around for at least 5 years as I've been talking to you guys. I think
Yes.
one of the key elements is that parents and grandparents, concerned community members, we all have to be open and willing to learn about all the options that are on the table. Sometimes we get in our own way. Now, I've never met a parent who doesn't want what's best for their kid. Every
Absolutely.
parent that I know always says they
It's-
want what's best for their child.
Yes.
And we sometimes, I have said it and I will say it again. Sometimes I struggle the most with people look like me that work in the system, because the system has told them this is how it is, this is how it must be, and said a lot of things to us that have made us want to fight against each other. And so it's time for everybody to like put all of that down, assume best intent for each other, and be willing to learn. So it's not just the parents. I'm not naming that just the parents. I think people in the system also have to be willing to step back and be willing to learn and say like, okay, how can we all really do what's best for our kids? Right now, the majority of our kids are being educated in the system. So there is some responsibility that the system has to do a better job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michelle?
Wow, that is such a loaded question, and I have a big answer, but I want to simplify it like this. We need to, as a community, truly be a community that interconnects from the top of Florida to the bottom of Florida. So if I happen to be in Tallahassee, I should be able to tap into what's going on in Tallahassee. If I happen to be in Miami, I should be able to tap into Miami's system. Wherever that I'm going, I should feel like, bam, there's somebody there. Okay. The other part of it is we have to stop having our hands out for the system to incorporate us. If we take $1 and invest in ourselves, $1, and say we're donating, then we have funds collectively to help someone to say, you know what, shoes is not going to be our problem this year. Okay. Or food is not going to be our problem this year. Our problem this year is how are we going to all come together? And we need to do that. The more that we come together, the more that we are stronger, the more our voices will rise. Okay. You know, we can lift every voice, every one of our voices, and sing so loudly that we will touch each other as we move together. And I think that that is how we need to do. We need to become integrative with our politicians, okay? Because they help to create our laws. And our voices need to be heard in that mannerism. Okay, whether we're homeschooling our children, whether we're privatizing them or putting them in a charter school, if we have that interconnection that looks the same, okay, then our strength in what we do as a community for our children, we will grow that much and that much stronger. In the state of Florida, the state of Florida has so much history. And I think that that's where we need to start, is that to know that we're homegrown and we got a lot to show here. And if we tap into those things here and expound on those things and let others know that that's how strong our voice is, then that's how fast we will grow without wondering that by the time they get to the 3rd grade, that there's something wrong with our child. There isn't. There is something wrong with us when we don't integrate together, not outwardly, but together. So when we plant that seed, we can make it grow into anything that we want.
Listen, great show tonight.
Wow, it sounds very cultural, that
Yeah.
we need to focus on ourselves as a group culturally is what I think I'm getting from you guys, regardless of whether you use homeschooling, charter schooling, or traditional schools, that we as a culture need to have that infrastructure in place that our children can get what they need that
Yes.
they're not getting in the traditional school system, maybe not even in the charter school system, but probably more so at home, because you guys are already trying to integrate. And if we can build on that, where it's a much more inclusive co-op on a state level, I think you're saying,
Yes.
I think I could buy that. And then the parents have to partake of the resources that are out there. As Dr. Cametra says, we don't really use the resources, because that cultural group would know that at the children's board, we can go learn French, right? Or Spanish, or whatever else.
Right.
Because that group knows where to go tap into those tax funded resources that
Absolutely.
work. But we then are deciding what is in that infrastructure. I love it. You are absolutely right. Great conversation, ladies. And if nothing else, I wanted you guys to meet because you have kindred spirits. And I believe that as I navigate through my little lane within the school system, I believe that something has to be done in short order. Somebody has to kick this thing off.
Well, Jeanette, all it takes is one prototype. All it takes is one. And we need one homeschool in the urban core to take off. People see and then follow suit. That's all we need.
I agree.
Even when they said it could be a group, a cohort, working together. So we should really be trying to work on that for next year.
The connectivity, ladies, and I would ask all of you, I would ask your thoughts on this. The connectivity too is to build some kind of online presence that connects people to resources where we're talking about our experiences, our problems, what have you, and we're starting to begin to build. Or I say, oh, this week, Obama's in the whatever else and blah, 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 and we want to take our kids there. We go.
Absolutely.
We all get a bus and we just take all the kids there, and they begin having those experiences with people they never would have met, because somebody in the group is influential enough to make that happen. And I think that's the key. So I'm going to keep talking to you guys about this stuff. And Dr. Cametra, we're going to have you on anytime we decide we're going to talk education, and we've got to bring Dr. Cametra on. But Shelley,
she's our go-to person anytime we need any educational information.
Right. So, and Shelley, the homeschool piece is critical, because the whole approach in terms of the motivation is, I want the best for my child, and I can deliver that. If we can get more parents, even if they're not homeschooling per se, to just think along those lines, I want the best for my child, and I have the agency to actually make that happen, whatever that looks like, rather than totally giving your agency to some other person or group to grow your child in a way that doesn't serve the community. So thank you, ladies, so very much.
I'm always with you all again. Nice to meet you, Shelley.
All right, guys. I love parents who get it, but parents who also prepare themselves to, as Dr. Cametra has, to not just get it for her own, but share it with others.
Sure.
And yeah, that was good.
That was interesting. And, we got to make sure this video gets out. I think we did it a little different. So I'm only seeing 3 eyes watching. I'm not able to really see any comments. But
there are no comments on stream. There are no comments because we're on YouTube and people are used to commenting on Facebook, but we've eliminated that. We have to decide what's important here for us, and that is, do we want the comments, or do we want to pull people into YouTube, because people are less likely to comment on YouTube, I think, except YouTubists or people who usually when people comment on YouTube, they're coming from somewhere else. They're not even local, and sometimes it's negative. It's like really negative.
Well, we have to skip those, but the 3 people that we do have on YouTube, please subscribe and like the video and share it.
Absolutely. More on education, but seriously, I do want to start something where we are having conversations with, Michelle and Dr. Cametra and maybe a few others. I do understand that for educators, sometimes it's a job, it's a paycheck, and they don't want to say anything or look like they are starting some kind of movement outside of their, but I think those of us who are outside, we can't just sit.
And look, we're gonna always need public school till we don't. But public school is here. This is just options for a number of things. I would say if your kid's having a difficult time in school, before I would let them break my child's spirit, I would take them out.
I don't know that we're always going to need public school in the way that it is. It hasn't changed really since when COVID came. They were forced to change. They had to make some changes for COVID. Other than that, they were not embracing technology in the way that they needed to until that moment. And that's when they discovered that many children, especially children in Black communities, were not equipped to learn online.
Right.
And so what I'm saying is, I think that there will be a very different way of educating ourselves. I mean, I went and got a master's program, didn't step on campus until it was time to graduate. I did it from home, and I think we're going to see more and more of that. But if we can control what that looks like for our children, so let's say, okay, kids can learn from home and blah, blah, blah. How do we set up neighborhood or community sites where you have parents who are homeschooling, basically, and making sure that our kids are having the kind of experience that allows them to be great, parallel to a system that is right now trying to make sure they are not great. And we can see that with the laws that are coming down the pipeline. And I refuse to sit and realize that we have all of these resources and nobody's really coming up with that plan. I mean, it's not inventing the wheel. There are a lot of great examples out there.
Absolutely, because we know it's happening and we cannot get caught behind the 8 ball.
Exactly.
Because, just like Project 2025, we already know they want to gut it as it is.
Yeah, just read it. Just read Project 2025. Right. It tells you exactly what they are planning to do. And they are actually executing, I think.
And we already see that, the book banding, no Black history, nothing with slavery. What the heck?
Yeah.
What's that benefiting us? You want to take a commercial break? We have another ad.
Let's do that.
I like this sponsor. All right, everybody, take a listen to this.
Feel like you're stuck in a situation, whether it's a relationship that's draining you or just feeling like you're not where you want to be? We've all been through that. Dr. Ellen Huff's got 2 books that can help you navigate through that. When the Mask Comes Off is real, talking about what it's like being in a toxic relationship, the red flags you ignore, and how to finally step out and get back to you. Then, I Choose to Be Victorious is all about shifting from the broken place to a stronger, more empowered version of yourself. It's about choosing a new story, no matter where you've been. Both of these books are for anyone ready to break free, heal, and start living on their own terms. It's not about where you start, it's about where you choose to go next. Make sure you check out those 2 books in our link in description. We highly recommend.
Oh my gosh.
Pretty awesome. I think, did you know November was author or writing month?
I know that because you told me.
Yeah, I heard it on, I think I heard it on the news or the radio or something. And I said, haha, I never knew that. And, and it fell in line when I reached out to Lauren and asked her, did she want to take an ad? And so I think we're going to have a few more authors
on this month
who will be sponsors. And listen, guys, if you want to be a sponsor, reach out to us.
Yes, please do. We want to be able to make sure that what you are doing, what you are selling, what you are teaching others. We want to make sure that word gets out, especially at this time where it's gift giving time.
Yeah. Reimagine, redoing Christmas. These are great. What I think what we're trying to say, these are great stocking stuffers. And
Right.
I wouldn't even think they were stocking stuffers because $20. I don't know. I didn't do really only person I didn't do $20 stocking stuffers. I found really good deals for stocking stuffers, right? So that would be a gift to one of my nieces or uh, someone that was going through a relationship
Yeah.
issue. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. But you can find the book online and learn a little bit more about how it's a self-help book,
Yeah.
how it may help someone you love, or
And and
just
the honey is another one of our sponsors, and that's a good gift as well.
seed for kids. And yeah, I want to push that personally because all of the money goes back to school gardens in Title I schools. We talked about Title I schools earlier. These kids are learning how to garden, but also learning how to take what they grow and creating products. And right now, honey resonates really well with the community.
Hmm.
So that has become a major fundraiser for us from one year to the next. So, yep.
All right. So, what are some of the ways we can move forward?
I'm telling you, I think we need to create some kind of forum or space where people come together and we come up with um, a think tank.
Yes.
It's a think tank. That's
Yes.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That we come up with a think tank and we begin creating a white paper of some sort that and I don't know, we create groups or cells
Yeah.
where parents who absolutely decide, I want my child out of the school system, we learn how to make that happen. And we make sure that those cells are able to accommodate. There are teachers that even want to come out. They want to come out. But of course, the benefits are pretty darn good if you stick with it.
Yeah.
But there are teachers who would want to come out and perhaps teach.
Yeah. Look, the message is clear, and we can't wait. We just simply can't wait for others to save us. Can't wait for others to come in and save our children. I remember a quote, and I'm gonna get it wrong, by
Mhm.
Malcolm X. And I probably won't, I'm not going to even say it because a lot of our kids have gone through the system and done well. And I wouldn't even say a lot. I would say the majority, but
Mhm.
we could definitely do better. Whether it's homeschooling, I even like the community co-op.
Yeah, I thought that was a great idea. I love that. But if I'm homeschooling, I'm also connected to the co-op
Yes,
where there's an expanded wealth of resources that I get to tap into, or my
yes.
child gets to tap into. I think that's brilliant. I mean,
And
we
I
don't
was
we don't have to invent anything; it's already happening.
yes, and I was thinking about it, but it is a lot because I didn't send my daughter to daycare because I had the option. I was only working 3 days, and the other 2 days, my mother kept her. But when I kept her, the YMCA, they had Spanish because I think when she was maybe two and a half, I took her to the YMCA on Palm for swimming and to learn Spanish. Really at 3, I think,
Hmm.
on Thursdays. But it is a lot of moving parts that you have to do um, when you are doing the homeschooling.
Yeah, There really are. So you really have,
But when you're co-oping, you could really make that work.
yeah, I think you can. I would want to see, though, a lot of the kids that I work with engaged in that type of learning. I think it will just change the game. It will totally change the game.
Sure.
And that they're mingling with kids from different socioeconomics, but they're all experiencing the same love. I'm using that word, but they're all experiencing that Black love, that care, and they just know. And it's kind of like when we were going to school in the the 70s and 60s and 70s.
60s and 70s, yes.
Yeah, I was in and out of Black schools, but for the most part, 60s and 70s, when the teacher lived down the street.
Yes. And I
Right.
think that's the difference. That our teachers and principals, we saw them. We saw them in our neighborhoods.
Mhm.
They live next door to us. We at the Zayres or wherever shopping plazas our parents went to, or the grocery store. We saw these people.
Yeah, you saw them, and now you don't. So I don't know. Our children deserve truth and dignity and opportunity, and not excuses. And we have to make sure that we can provide that. It's our responsibility, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, look, No More Left Behind isn't just a title. It's a call to action.
Absolutely.
And we're going to have to make it work.
Absolutely.
Even Moses co-signed on that one.
Yeah, he did. He was rambunctious today. I had to go let him outside and not go outside with him. He was like, just go outside. And then I had to go get Miss Patterson. I need you to go outside with Moses because he's not going to let me just sit here. So I don't know. Folks, you can find us on YouTube. We did something a little bit different. We're going to talk about how we can make sure that you are engaging with us, because we do like to read your comments online while we on live. So we're going to kind of figure that out. But right now, you can find us on YouTube. We need you to like us on YouTube so that we can grow our community.
Yes. And I want to try to grow this. We need 500 subscribers, guys. Please share it. Invite people to come in and subscribe. And I want those 500 by, I want to be bold and say Thanksgiving, but I'm going to say Christmas.
It's totally bold. That's totally bold. But we're going to have to work at that. And I think we can kind of figure it out. So, folks, until the next time, stay informed, stay bold, and stay Black independent.
Absolutely.
And